students, welcome to the lecture on legal and ethical issues on e-commerce, and after this lecture we will be able to learn the following objectives. Explain legal and ethical issues, understand website issues, define advertising local research and keyword scams, identify theft and internet fraud, define domain name registration issues and scams. Let us start with a brief introduction to the legal and ethical issues of e-commerce. The ethical and global issues of information technology apply to e-business. So, what are the issues particularly related to the e-commerce? The ethical issues spawned with the growing field of e-commerce. New forms of e-commerce that enables new business practices have many advantages but also bring numerous risks. We discuss about the ethical and legal issues related to e-business. The vastness of internet advertising offers a solid platform for electronic commerce or e-commerce to explore. E-commerce has the ability to provide secure shopping transactions coupled with instant verification and validation of credit card transactions. E-commerce is not about the technology itself, it is about doing business leveraging and technology. A technological innovation is followed by a frequent incorporation of ethical standards into law. The central issues of e-commerce and the law include the development of e-commerce, the role of consumers and regulations of e-commerce in regards to consumer protection.
Spoofing. Web spoofing. Web spoofing tricks users into thinking they are visiting a genuine site when in reality they are visiting a site created by a attacker. Spoofing can lead you to believe that you are visiting a trusted site or receiving email from a non-individual when in reality you are being misled or misdirected. This fake site may appear to be an exact genuine site and requires to provide the sensitive information such as credit card information. Email spoofing. Email spoofing is the forgery of an email header so that the message appears to have originated from someone or somewhere other than the actual source. It is a common form of unsolicited mail and almost always has a malicious intent, usually to obtain sensitive information. The most common ways of spoofing is to change the from address on an email that allows the spoofer to send an email from one mail server that looks like it is from another server altogether. As a result, when the user enters sensitive data such as credit card number, password, bank account number, birthday, or social security number, the attacker can obtain the data for identity theft or some other fraudulent purpose.
Privacy invasion. The privacy invasion occurs when the personal details belong to consumer are exposed to the unauthorized party. It may occur in three ways. First, electronic commerce businesses buy information about individuals such as personal details, shopping habits, and web page visitation listing. This can be done with or without the individual's knowledge by using different computing technologies. A large number of websites which require users to create a member name also ask for personal details. These details are then often sold on to companies to aid in the marketing and selling of their products. Second, the personal information of consumers being transmitted may be intercepted by anyone other than the person who it is intended. Protecting the privacy of communication is a great challenge due to the very nature of the online medium and open network of digital telecommunication. Third, malicious programs delivered query while web page could reveal credit card numbers, users' name, and password that are frequently stored in special files called cookies. Because the internet is stateless and cannot remember a response from one web page well to another, cookies help solve the problem of remembering customer order information or user's name or password.
Let us discuss legal and ethical issues. Business ethics allows business people to identify the various stakeholders in every decision. Identifying stakeholders allow people to realize how many different people will be affected by the decision. Identifying stakeholders means that no one's needs can be ignored. Businesses entering the e-commerce world will be facing a new set of ethical challenges. It is easy for business to become sidetracked in the technical challenges of operating in this way and to pay little attention to the ethical implications. E-commerce is a new way of conducting business that takes place on the internet. It has become an important way in which consumers purchase goods across the world, as well as due to internet technology progressing rapidly in the last few years. Privacy and security. The privacy issue related to the employees of companies is tracking. Monitoring systems are installed in many companies to monitor email and other web activities in order to identify employees who extensively use business hours for non-business activities. The e-commerce activities performed by a buyer can be tracked by organizations. Most electronic payment systems know the identity of the buyer. So it is necessary to protect the identity of a buyer who uses electronic payment system. The privacy issue related to the employees of companies tracking. Monitoring systems are installed in many companies to monitor email and other web activities in order to identify employees who extensively use business hours for non-business activities. The e-commerce activities performed by a buyer can be tracked by organizations. Security policy. The first step in securing an e-commerce venture is to formulate written security policies which clearly define the requirements for each component of the system: human, technological, legal, and how they interact. An organization's security policy defines its position on the protection of its physical and IT assets. It identifies the physical and intellectual property assets that are most valuable for the continued success of the company and specifies how they should be protected. Indian IT Act 2000. The aims of this act to provide a legal and regulatory framework for promotion of e-commerce and e-governance. It is applicable to the whole of India. Some of the major provisions contained in the IT Act 2000 are: electronic contracts will be legally valid, legal recognition of digital signatures, security procedures for electronic records and digital signature, appointment of certifying authorities and controller of certifying authorities, including recognition for foreign certifying authorities. Various types of computer crimes defined and stringent penalties provided under the Act. Establishment of Cyber Appellate Tribunal under the Act. Act to apply for offences or contraventions committed outside India. Power of police officers and other officers to enter into any public place and search and arrest without warrant. Constitution of Cyber Regulations Advisory Committee who will advise the central government and controller. Copyright and trademark. The copyright laws protect intellectual property in its various forms and cannot be used freely. It is very difficult to protect intellectual property in e-commerce. The copyright laws protect intellectual property in its various forms and cannot be used freely. It is very difficult to protect intellectual property in e-commerce. A trademark is a distinctive mark, device, motto, or implement that a company affixes to the goods it produces for identification purpose. A service mark is similar to a trademark, but it is used to identify services provided. Note that the name that a business uses to identify itself is called a trade name. Electronic transaction. Electronic transaction separates e-business from traditional types of businesses. When a transaction takes place, which has jurisdiction? Who has the authority to apply the law over the transaction? Some federal, state and territory governments encourage the adoption of electronic commerce by enacting and enabling legalization. Electronic commerce or e-commerce is a term for any type of business or commercial transaction that involves the transfer of information across the internet.
Did you know online revenue in 1997 was $1.3 billion? Projected online revenue in 2014 will be $248 billion. The first commercial text message was sent in December of 1992. Today, the number of text messages sent and received every day exceeds the total population of the planet. The computer in your cell phone today is 1,000,000 times cheaper, 1,000 times more powerful, 100,000 times smaller than the one computer at MIT in 1965. The number of internet devices in 1984 was 1,000. In 1992, 1 million. In 2008, 1 billion. More video was uploaded to YouTube in the last 2 months than if ABC, NBC, and CBS had been airing new content 24/7, 365 for over 60 years. There are 31 billion searches on Google every month. In 2006, this number was 2.7 billion. It took radio 38 years to reach a market audience of 50 million, TV 13 years, Internet 4 years, iPod 3 years, Facebook 2 years. There are over 400 million active users on Facebook. If Facebook were a country, it would be the 3rd largest in the world. The amount of new technical information is doubling every 2 years. For students starting a 4-year technical degree, this means that half of what they learn in their first year of study will be outdated by their 3rd year of study. The U.S. Department of Labor estimates that today's learner will have 10 to 14 jobs by the age of 38. We are currently preparing students for jobs that don't exist yet, using technologies that haven't been invented. 1 in 4 workers has been with their current employer for less than a year. 1 in 2 has been there less than 5 years. 53% of the small businesses in the U.S. are home-based. That's more than 24 million. Every 11 seconds, someone starts a home-based business. Home-based businesses are a $425 billion industry. That's more than the pharmaceutical industry, the food industry, and the consumer goods industry combined. 98% of people surveyed report that they are happier working from home. So, what does all this mean for you?
Online terms, conditions, policies and laws. At the moment, most online privacy policies are produced by private businesses for individual companies. Governments are developing legislation to support and strengthen the privacy protection measures of many businesses. These initiatives are aimed at regulating the storage, use and disclosure by businesses of personal information. Privacy legislation is designed to protect a person's personal information. The privacy laws of their host country affect overseas companies. Every organization should be careful while applying terms and conditions for each electronic transaction for internet users. Major issues regarding the legalization of electronic transaction include the following: ensure a proper online contract, record retention obligations, original documentation in terms of tax and VAT requirements, import-export regulations, exchange control regulation, foreign data protection law, e-business and legal issues. The technological basis of e-commerce is basically web client-server, middleware, or what is called 3-tier architectures. The client tier is the web browser involving some type of form processing. The middle tier is the web server, often with transaction processing. E-commerce site development, its advertising, electronic transaction, money transaction and such involve many legal issues which need to be taken into account step by step. Defining rules and regulations for the advertisement of the site by placing banners on other known sites is another. It is of great value when dealing with such complex issues to consult an attorney who specializes in the issues of cyberspace. Most of the legal issues surrounding electronic commerce are not new. Web tracking. E-businesses draw information on how visitors use a site through log files. Analysis of log file means turning log data into application services, installing software that can pluck relevant information from files in-house. Companies track individuals' movement through tracking software and cookie analysis. Programs such as cookie raise a batch of privacy concerns. The tracking history is stored on PC's hard disk, and anytime we revise a website, the computer knows it. Disintermediation and reintermediation. Intermediation is one of the most important and interesting e-commerce issues related to the loss of jobs. The services provided by intermediaries are matching and providing information, value-added services such as consulting. The first type of service, matching and providing information, can be fully automated, and the service is likely to be in e-marketplaces and portals that provide free services. The value-added service requires expertise, and this can only be partially automated. The phenomenon by which intermediaries who provide mainly matching and providing information services are eliminated is called disintermediation. The internet and people's demand for online information is growing at an incredible rate, and if we are not providing customers with online information on business or services, we may be forfeiting a key competitive advantage, or at the very least keeping up with competitors. The information boom has created following issues for business looking at buying a website. Can we easily update my website? After all, there is no point providing potential customers with information they need to make a purchase decision if the information is old. Issues in components offered within the website. Is there an email marketing option? Can we offer an online store? Can we database my customers? Technophobia, a feeling of being overwhelmed by rapid changes in technology. Content management system for businesses, websites. A content management system essentially allows the average person to make changes to their website. The pages are laid out very similar to a Word document, and we do not need to know website code, HTML, CSS, etc. to add and change pages. Conflict issues caused by disparate online tools components. Many websites designers use various tool components to build a business website. Some of these have built themselves, and other are components that may be adapted to what they already have. Options such as content management, email marketing, online store, database, etc. that have from different sources can have conflict issues if not built into a website correctly.
There is a vast amount to consider from a legal perspective when purchasing ICT, goods or services. Here are 3 important points to remember. Firstly, ownership of the goods or IT services that you provide may not be as you believe. For example, if you commission a website, have it up and running, it may not actually belong to you, as if copyright is not assigned in writing, it will belong to the developer. Therefore, it is important for you to get clear terms and conditions with whoever you are purchasing the goods from in terms of costs, delivery and ownership. Secondly, you need to be aware of third-party rights. For example, the internet is awash with eye-catching images that can be downloaded by the click of a button. However, just because these images or content is on another's website does not mean it's free to use. And image banks often pursue people for use of their images without permission. Therefore, it is important to check that you have permission to use all content on your website. Additionally, many businesses have trademarks or domain names that infringe third-party trademarks. This can be really frustrating if a business has spent time developing a brand and an image and promoting the same, only to find that a competitor has earlier rights to that mark. Therefore, it is important to check that no competitor has a similar or the same trademark in use before you. If you have a strong name and a good brand, it is important to register a trademark, as this will give you additional rights as well as creating a valuable business asset. Finally, it is important to consider all the legislation that applies when trading online or even having a brochure site. For example, legislation includes e-commerce directives, Disability Discrimination Act, unfair consumer terms, as well as the Data Protection Act. So it's important to comply with these, as there can be custodial and financial sanctions taken against you. More importantly, though, is the adverse PR this creates, and of course your customers are the most important people. To summarise, businesses should be checking, firstly, that they own everything they think they own, secondly, that they're not infringing any third-party rights, and finally, that they comply with all the legislation.
Let us now discuss advertising local search and keyword scams. Unethical spyware and adware companies are promoting themselves as get to the top of Google, Yahoo and Microsoft Bing search, guaranteed for keywords. These companies are using the term search engine data merging. Spyware and adware is installed on some users' computers, then they key sell words to professionals for thousands of rupees a year. This is a huge money-making scam. The company has used various names: search elevators, link positions, window billboard networks, WinSpeed networks, real position networks, keywords guru, and even a search engine labeled Red Z Search. Other unethical schemes have duped a certain public segment, especially when economic times are difficult. National business owners, local small business owners, and professional services people get caught up in all types of sale pitches to go around sales, marketing, and advertising principles of getting the website found online and try promised shortcuts that simply do not produce. A single real estate agent can pay hundreds or thousands of dollars annually depending on how people keywords requested. There is no telling as to extent of how many American and international professionals for all professionals are captured by this net and how much revenue is being taken in. Believe it or not, they do get websites top of the internet search engines of whoever has Think special tracking software installed on their computers. Enter B2B and B2C attorneys, realtors, insurance agents, and any other type of professional businesses looking for leads in the hot consumer marketplace. An agent gets a call from a very nice and sincere sounding sales representative asking the agent if they are interested in getting hundreds and thousands of leads and website visitors guaranteed. The agent is told a very glossy story about how they can place the agent's website at the top of certain keywords searches from the top 10 to 20 million network users. Of course, with numbers like that, anyone would want to hear more information. Let us now discuss identity theft and internet fraud. Identity theft is a major problem of which we have personal experience with. That is a different story and continues on. Beware that this issue is related to online B2C ethical business issues and legal issues. E-commerce fraud popped out with the rapid increase in popularity of website. It is a hot issue for both cyber and click and mortar merchants. The swindlers are active mainly in the area of stocks. The small investors are lured by promise of false profits by the stock promoters. Auctions are also conducive to fraud by both sellers and buyers. The availability of emails and pop-up ads has paved the way of financial criminals to have access to many people. Identity theft happens when someone steals personal information and uses it without permission. It is a serious crime that can wreak havoc with finances, credit history, and reputation that can take time, money, and patience to resolve. If identity thieves have personal information, they can drain bank accounts, run up charges on credit cards, open new utility accounts, or get medical treatment on health issues.
According to Forbes magazine, identity theft and related fraud cost 11.2 million victims an estimated $54 billion in 2009. So, how do you make sure you're not a statistic? Follow these simple identity fraud protection steps and you'll hit identity thieves where it hurts. At least once a year, check your credit report and rating from each of the 3 major credit reporting agencies for fraudulent activity. You can obtain all 3 reports for free once every 12 months at annualcreditreport.com. In addition, there are companies that offer credit monitoring services for a monthly fee. To help prevent identity fraud, keep all identification and financial documents in a safe and private place. Provide personal information only when you know how it will be used. You have reviewed and feel comfortable with the company's privacy policy. You initiated contact and know who you're dealing with. Carry only those personal identification and credit cards you really need. Never put mail or documents containing personal information, including pre-approved credit card offers, directly in the trash. Always shred first. Be aware of people behind you at the ATM or anywhere else you swipe your card. Examine the charges on your credit card statements every month. Update virus protection software periodically and after every new virus alert is announced. Do not download files or open links sent from people you don't know. Enter personal identity and financial information only when there's a lock icon on the browser's status bar. And look for the URL to read HTTPS versus HTTP. Remember, the S means secure. If you must store personal identity and financial information on your laptop, use a strong password, one that is a hard-to-guess combination of upper and lowercase letters and numbers. Don't use an automatic login feature, and always log off when you're finished.
Now let us discuss the issues and scams of domain name registration. Domain name registration is another area online where ethics have been thrown out. Certainly, there are some gray areas for someone to be registering a domain name that is close to some other corporate identity's name. But many of these individuals and corporations that register domain names in the same country and other countries that are nearer to similar to the spellings of others are registering the names to infringe upon the trademarks and brands of other corporations and organizations. The competition is over. Domain name is another legal issue. Internet addresses are known as domain names and they appear in levels. A top level name is qbers.com or microsoft.com. A second level name will be qbers.com blog. Top level domain names are assigned by a central non-profit organization which also checks for conflicts or possible infringement of trademarks. Another issue to look out is a cyber squatting, which refers to the practice of registering domain names with the desire of selling it at a higher prices. Security features such as authentication, non-repudiation and escrow services can protect the sellers in e-commerce. One needs to be careful while doing e-commerce activities. The need to educate the public about the ethical and legal issues related to e-commerce is highly important from a buyer as well as seller perspective. With the proliferation of worldwide domain name registrars from all countries around the globe, in which many of these countries such do not even maintain a same social ethical value system, makes it even more difficult to protect corporate trademarks, copyrights and intellectual property rights. Additionally, because many of these countries have their own rules and regulations for bringing domain disputes in which the complaint bears the legal burden of proof for their own claims is a native language of the country, as opposed to English, and differs greatly from that of ICANN, Internet Corporation of Assigned Names and Numbers, Registration and Domain Dispute Resolution Policies, it will become increasingly difficult to protect corporate identities on the Internet. Now in the end, let us summarize what we have learned in this lecture. E-commerce has the ability to provide secure and shopping transactions coupled with instant verification, validation of credit card and transactions. E-commerce is a new way of conducting business that takes place on the internet. It has become an important way in which consumers purchase goods across the world as well as due to internet technology progressing rapidly in the last few years. A privacy issue related to employees of company is tracking. Monitoring systems are installed in many companies to monitor email and other web activities in order to identify employees who extensively use business hours for non-business activities. The copyright laws protect intellectual property in its various forms and cannot be used freely. It is very difficult to protect intellectual property in e-commerce. Unethical spyware and adware companies are promoting themselves as get to the top of Google, Yahoo and Microsoft Bing. Search guaranteed for keywords.